One of the things that your brain is very concerned with is relative status. That's wired in, by the way, which is partly why relative poverty is often such a social problem. People hate being low in status, especially men. Well, the male status hierarchy is a bit different than women, and women are pretty sensitive to status too, but they use different markers. Anyways, part of what happens when your status goes up is that your brain serotonin levels go up, and when your brain serotonin levels go up, you're less irritable and you experience less negative emotion per unit of uncertainty or threat. And so when you demean someone and you interfere with and you lower their presumed status as far as a very primordial circuit is concerned, you alter the system that regulates their emotions, and they hate that. People hate that more than anything, and it's an unbelievably archaic circuit. You can kind of tell this because depressed people basically act like they're low status, and depressed people are depressed about everything. Now, it's not easy to be depressed about everything, right? And so the fact that that's the case means that what's ever gone astray has to be very primordial because it affects everything. Anyways, people often use antidepressants to cure depression, hence their name. And antidepressants decrease the rate at which serotonin is taken back up by the neurons that produce it. Well, 300 million years ago, crustaceans emerged. And crustaceans live in dominance hierarchies, even though they're not particularly social. And if one lobster fights with another and gets defeated, then he won't fight with another lobster even when he beat for 20 minutes, unless you give him antidepressants. In which case he'll fight again right away. The reason I'm telling you this is because the status structure that underlies your being, not just your brain, but your being, is so old you share it with crustaceans. So you mess with it at your peril. It's not learned, by no means. So anyways, you wander around inside one of these little frames, going from point A to point B all the time. And one of the annoying things about life, and this is sort of the Sisyphus story, is that as soon as you climb from point A to point B, and you get there, then there's another point A and another point B. And that's kind of interesting too, because one of the things it suggests is that getting somewhere isn't really what people want, because as soon as you get somewhere, then you're done going there, and then you have to get somewhere else. So in some sense, it seems it's an accomplishment. In another sense, it's just the next rock up the mountain. Now, you all know this because, you graduated from university and that was a good day, but the next day, you weren't a university student, you were some unemployed loser. And that's that sets up a whole new set of problems, right? I mean, that's how the frame shifts. And when the frame shifts like that, then the value of everything shifts around it. So, it turns out that people are actually more interested in getting from point A to point B than they are in actually being at point B. And almost all of the positive emotion that you feel, which is related to dopaminergic circuitry, by the way, you experience in relationship to the pursuit of a valued goal rather than to the attainment of the goal. The attainment of the goal actually satisfies you, or more specifically, it satisfies that motivational circuit, but then the damn thing just shuts off and another one starts yelling at you. So it's like a perverse form of victory. So one answer to that that's universal in some sense is that you should establish a relationship with a transcendent value, because it never runs out of motivational power. You can see an example of that, it's a popular example in popular culture in the Pinocchio movie, how many of you have seen that? Yeah. Has anybody not seen it? That's amazing. Anyways, in the Pinocchio movie, one of the things that happens is when Geppetto wishes that his son becomes a full developed individual instead of a damn puppet, it's a good thing for a parent to wish, by the way, he wishes upon a star, and the star signifies something of transcendent value. And so the meaning of that fundamentally is that if you want to raise your child to be an independent being, then you better set your sights on something transcendent or it won't happen. And believe me, there's lots of times it doesn't happen. So part of the utility of a transcendent value is that it never loses its motivational effectiveness. Now, you might say, well, that's no proof that there are transcendent values. It's like, yeah, that's true, but, there's more to the story. Okay, so when you're in one of these little stories, which is basically what they are, they're the simplest story. I was one place, I went by this means to another place. That's the simplest story. It's not that exciting. Much more exciting story is I was going from point A to B, and something weird happened, and then I didn't know where I was, and then I was like in chaos for, 2 years, and then I figured out how to climb out of it. Everybody likes that story, right? That's a death and rebirth story, by the way, or a fall from paradise story with a regaining of paradise at the end. It's an archetypal story because everyone lives it. So, anyways, when you're in one of these little stories, frames of reference, what you see in front of you are really things that one of the best scientists who ever studied visual perception called, the book called Ecological Approach to Visual Perception, he called them affordances. An affordance is something that affords you something, and affordances can be positive or negative. I like to think about them as tools or obstacles. So for example, if I need to make a beeline for that door, you guys are all instantly obstacles. And the way I would respond to that, like, implicitly, is that you'd all be negative. So imagine we just said fire. Well, you were people the minute before that, but the second after that, you're obstacles. And your emotional reactions to the people that are in front of you are going to reflect that. Now, you all know that because you drive, and once you're encapsulated in your little insectoid shell and don't have to deal with the immediate responses of other people, you're going to treat them like obstacles and like, demonic obstacles at the drop of a hat. And, that's pretty much automatic behavior. So tools are things that get you to where you want to go. And you remember, human beings are tool-using animals par excellence, right? We're so tool-using that that's what we see. It's built right into us. We're always scanning the world for tools. When you look at gravel, for example, what you actually see are throwing-sized rocks. That's why they manifest themselves as that kind of object in the environment, You're built at a certain level of resolution, and the way your nervous system parses up the world is into things that are useful for you and things that aren't. And those are not objects. The whole idea of object is a very, very modern derivative of that much more primordial system. And it's by no means clear at all that our notion of object is more real than the notion of affordance. In fact, as far as your brain is concerned, objects, no one cares about objects. What your brain cares about is affordances, and what your brain is adapted to is the world as a set of affordances and obstacles. And if you're a Darwinian, it's very difficult to escape the conclusion that what selected you is reality. And so if the reality that selected you shaped you so that what you see are affordances and obstacles, or you die, then it's perfectly real proposition, perfectly reasonable proposition to state that what reality is, in fact, is a set of affordances, tools, and obstacles. And that is how your brain works, by the way. When you look at, say I look at that projector, maybe I'm thinking about picking it up. What happens is my eyes activate the part of my motor cortex that would adjust my hand to grip it like that. And so part of what I understand as the projector is grippable object. And that's not a secondary derivation. I don't see the object and then think, this is how I would grip it. It's like that would take forever. You'd never catch a baseball if that's what you were doing. It's like, oh, a round object is clunk. It's like, that's just not going to work. Your nervous system is nowhere fast enough to do that consciously. You're using reptile circuitry to catch baseball. The mammalian stuff is too damn slow. So you catch the ball often, especially if someone pitches it fast, before you can even see it. You just think you saw it. You see it after you caught it. It's the case with tennis players too. What they seem to do is judge where the ball is going to go by the angle of the racket. Because if they wait till the ball is off the racket, they can't move fast enough to hit it back. They don't have the reflexes for it. So they can't move the neural messages fast enough to do it.